Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and share with you sort of thoughts here on the digital transformation. And quick background, I've been honored to work with KT for over 10 years. They're been a very good limited partner for us, and I personally have invested in over 100 B2B software companies.
지금 모든 강의를 영어로 진행하실 예정이고요. 테이블 위에 놓여 있는 리시버를 사용하시면 순차 통역으로 진행해 드리도록 하겠습니다. 동시 통역이 함께 진행되니까요. 이용 부탁드립니다.
Thank you. Also, I've written a couple of books here on how to build enterprise startups. So what I want to start with is what people have been talking about, which is COVID has had a big impact on the US economy. In fact, I would say after being in Korea for the last few days, it's been a bigger impact in the United States than in Korea, because Korea has actually handled COVID pretty well. So in the United States, over 100 million people have been working at home. 80 million students have been attending class from home. This is a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge, because I live in San Francisco, and you can see the picture before COVID and after COVID. It's completely different. Like in my case, I haven't gone to my office since March. You know, all our work and our team has been over video. We don't meet in person. We make investments over video now. So it's dramatically changed the way that I work, and being isolated at home is very hard. You know, it's very tough. But on the other hand, what we've been seeing is our business explode. So what I mean by that is that COVID is really accelerating the digital transformation. And since we invest in B2B software companies, what we've seen is our companies in general just accelerate growth. A good example of this is what people talk about with Zoom. So what you can see here is a chart on the left is Zoom's growth before COVID, and then with COVID, Zoom accelerated. And so basically their revenue ramp accelerated by 2 years. One of our companies, Splashtop, does remote desktop, and this is a measure of usage. They were growing nicely. They were growing about 80% per year. With COVID, they exploded as well, because everyone needs remote access. We saw this also in call center. This is a picture of, I guess in Korea, there was a COVID incident in a call center which scared the United States. And so all of a sudden, American companies said, we have to move our call center employees from call center to working at home. And so one of our companies, TalkDesk, they develop call center software, and they're able to migrate agents from the office to working at home in 24 hours. And so they had a Fortune 100 healthcare companies move 1,500 agents to working at home. Another company is a Fortune 100 media company. They moved 10,000 agents from the call center to home in 24 hours. And so what we have right now is, like in the US, 34% are working at home. And actually by being at home, their productivity has been going up by 17%. So this company, actually KT, is an investor in this company through Storm, and their valuation has gone up like 100x since they first invested. We see also COVID accelerating e-commerce. So a company like Shopify has doubled in valuation to 117 billion because of the fact that a lot of merchants now needed to sell online. And so they went to Shopify to sell online. In the same way, one of our companies, an Israeli company for doing visual AI search for e-commerce, also saw a sudden acceleration as people needed e-commerce tools as well. And COVID has been changing how we run meetings in the United States since we all have to work distributed. The first change is pretty obvious. You go from physical meetings to virtual meetings, and that separates location. And so now people from all over the world, we communicate easily by video. I remember one morning I met with one startup from Germany. We had a video call. My next call was an Israeli startup, and my next call was a Chicago startup. So I had these 3 founder calls in a span of 3 hours. So we definitely are moving to virtual meetings, but there's another trend that's accelerating, and that's moving to asynchronous meetings. And what that does is eliminates not only location, but time. And so by doing that, what you get is dramatically increased participation in meetings, because in physical meetings, it's only the people that could be in the room at that time. So it's a small group. To asynchronous, you can have the whole company involved. An example of that is GitLab. GitLab now has 1,300 employees in 67 countries. From day one, they were distributed. They never had an office. And as a result, they've seen huge benefits in long-term institutional knowledge, because now knowledge is shared throughout the whole company. It's not just the people in the meeting, and greater participation. And they say that they have 30 to 40% cost savings. 10% cost savings from no offices, 30 to 40%, another 30% from hiring non-Bay Area employees. So you can hire from anywhere around the world. And the way they do it is that it requires executive commitment, but also important is just very clear documentation of everything so that information can be shared. This is an article that was written by a friend, Alex Zukin, who's a business software research analyst. And his point is that how COVID is accelerating how people work from work 1.0 to work 2.0. And fundamentally what it is you're going from limited data access to open data access. Because at the end of the day, knowledge or data is power. So if you make data more available, you share the power, and as a result, companies are becoming much more effective, especially if you've adopted a data culture. So as I mentioned, COVID has been accelerating the digital transformation in the United States. But digital transformation, as many know, had been happening even before COVID. And when I talk to like my kids and I said, it's been a common topic, they go, well, how do you prove that? What's the data? So this is the data from Google Trends on digital transformation. And so you can see the interest in digital transformation before COVID and after is the same. So this is the way that, as we have discussions, is sort of how to have data-driven discussions even in our own family. And the reason why digital transformation in the US has been a big factor is because of people like Pierre from CEO of Accenture, but others. But the point is that digital is the main reason just over half the companies in the United States have disappeared since 2000. So the idea is that if you don't go through the digital transformation, there's a good chance that you as a company will not survive. And so there's this urgent need to go through the digital transformation, not because they want to, but because it's necessary for survival. So then we ask the question, what is digital transformation? And I know a lot of people have different views. I look at digital transformation as something simple, which is just automating workflow. Workflow is how people do things. The bigger the company, you have more workflows. Workflows are important because without it, then you don't have consistent practice. And so what digital transformation is about automating workflow. So before digital transformation, automation occurred only really for mission-critical applications for large companies, like ERP for large companies, because automation was very expensive. For every $1 you pay SAP, you have to pay $5 for consulting services. So it's very expensive, and so this was a closed space. What happened with is all of a sudden that became open space because software as a service, SaaS came, opened it up, and that black space became a blue ocean that just became an area that drove things. So if you ask, the goal is digital transformation. How do you get there? Is by automating workflow. That's a SaaS solution. So that's the link, is your goal is digital transformation, but you implement SaaS to get there. And the reason why SaaS and all that became important is because of push and pull. From a pull standpoint, what users want is a great B2C-like experience. They use Gmail, they use Instagram, they use Snapchat. They want that great user experience, and people call it the consumerization of the enterprise. So users want that great UI, that consumer-like experience. At the same time, cloud technology came up, and cloud was invented by the B2C giants to deliver that B2C type of experience. So you combine with the enabling technology, the user need, and then it took off in this blue space. And the reason why cloud is so disruptive is that cloud really is a new compute platform. As it went from mainframe to PCs to network and now cloud, cloud also delivers speed and scale, so allows application developers to develop things much faster than they did if they had to be responsible for the whole stack. And then lastly, you can leverage the investment. So this is the capital investment of Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. And as you can see, like last year, Amazon invested $30 billion in their CapEx in their cloud infrastructure. So by combining those two things, what we've seen is a massive explosion of SaaS companies. So this is an IDC report that SaaS revenues in 2019 were $148 billion. The CEO of Microsoft said that in the next 5 years, he expects another 500 million SaaS applications. These SaaS applications can be trivial or can be complex. Anything from expense management to forecasting to AI or anything is a SaaS application. And as you can see is that in terms of apps for a company, big companies are adopting it, like 288 per big company, or small companies are adopting like 102 SaaS applications in a company of less than 100 employees. And the adoption is in G&A, R&D, and sales and marketing. So you're seeing this pervasive adoption of SaaS applications, many times without even IT knowing it. It's driven by the user. The user wants that B2C experience, finds a SaaS application, and then starts using it because it's easy to use. And so as a result, we are seeing a major transition of these software leaders from Oracle Siebel to Salesforce, from PeopleSoft to Workday, BMC to ServiceNow, and potentially even the communication from like Outlook to Zoom. And we've seen the transition from like Avaya to TalkDesk as they're going through this. For us as Storm, we've invested aggressively in this space, as you can see, whether in the sales, marketing, HR, vertical, engineering, data infrastructure, security, and our big mistake is we should have invested like 3 times more. So we should have invested in the companies that we turned down as well too. So as a result, digital transformation, once you get it, is a huge accomplishment. And I know here we're talking about is achieving that goal of digital transformation so you can automate the workplace and get all the gains from automation. But what we're starting to see, though, is that digital transformation is not enough. And that what you really need is to become a full data company. And when we say data company, we can talk about big data, we can talk about AI, we can talk about all the enablements. But another way of looking at it, if you're the CEO of a company, is I don't want to get killed by Amazon. Amazon in the United States is disrupting business in a big manner. And so non-technical CEOs are concerned about how do I compete against Amazon? And what do I mean by that? Let's spend a bit more time. Is that Amazon really is the next generation example of becoming a data company. Amazon's strategy is in these 3 words. This is Bezos, who said that we've had 3 big ideas at Amazon that we've stuck with for 18 years, and they're the reasons why we're successful. He puts customer first, he invents, and are patient. By putting customer first, he said, these are his quotes. He says, if there's one reason we've done better than our peers in the internet space, it's because we have focused like a laser on customer experience, and that really matters. So number one goal is customer focus. Number two goal is invent. You need a culture that high-fives small and innovative ideas and senior executives that encourage ideas. And so they invented Amazon Prime, they invented AWS, invented Alexa, invented a lot of things. And then be patient. In order for innovative ideas to bear fruit, companies need to be willing to wait 5 to 7 years, and most companies don't take that time. So this is what Amazon Bezos says. But then you wonder, well, how does this relate to data? Well, it turns out the core of all this is Amazon's data platform. So the first quote is from Brian Dumaine, who's wrote a book recently about Amazon. And he says, since the day Bezos founded Amazon in 1994, it has essentially been a data-driven company that just happened to do retailing. The next quote is from an executive who worked at Amazon and became founder CEO of his own company and wrote a really good blog piece. And these are quotes from that blog piece. He says, Bezos's core innovation was to place data at the center of his corporate culture. And what does that mean, to put data at the center of his corporate culture? Is, he said, number one, it says that listening to data starts at the top. Bezos has a rare ability to set opinions aside in favor of data. A data-driven culture is meaningless without the support of the CEO and the executive team and their own willingness to change assumptions that they hold dear. In other words, Bezos may believe one thing, but if the data says something different, he changes his mind. So the ability to say that you have to listen to data. The second is democratizing data. So everyone, regardless of seniority, have access to data and tools to test their ideas and intuitions. With the established primacy of data and broad empowerment to test early and often, rapid innovation and huge gains become possible. So this is the whole idea of democratizing data, making data available to others, and that's what Alex Zukin said is going from work 1.0 to work 2.0, is making that data available. And the third point is metrics define your corporate culture. Is metrics with data, you can create metrics that become objectives, objectives become mantra, and then mantra composes the verbiage of everyone's job. So with data, you can define these metrics and goals and make it you can really improve execution. So this is an example of how data becomes a platform. And so now if you wrap it up in Amazon, when you say data platform for Amazon is really three things. One is you need a data-driven culture, where the great thing about fact-based decisions is that they overrule hierarchy. So you need a data-driven culture with a modern tech stack for data, which Amazon has with AWS. And then you need data. Well, Amazon has Amazon Prime, so they have data from 150 million subscribers, all this. So they have a huge amount of data. And so with that, they can just build a service and attack a new industry. They buy Whole Foods, they go into grocery. They could add an insurance service, go into insurance tech. They can add something and just attack another industry. So they have this ability because they have this data platform by building a data-driven service to go after new industries. So the understanding that Amazon is growing and doing this is causing people to say, well, how do we compete? And so you're looking at it and you say, I have to do all this work to become a digital transformation, but in order to compete against Amazon or the Googles or other data-driven companies, how can I be a data company in Amazon? Because I need a data-driven culture, I have to make sure cloud, I have to use data, come up with the right application so I can compete. Because if I can't compete, I won't survive. So when you look at it, you're working on digital transformation, but trying to become this sort of next future data company is a big challenge. Well, it turns out there's a shortcut how you can go from digital transformation to a data company by combining AI with SaaS. By combining AI with SaaS, you get a lot of data that you can use. So you solve the Amazon Prime data problem. So you solve this problem. by extending your SaaS that solves the application and the cloud, you can have obviously companies like KT, Microsoft, others that you can use to leverage that. And then building a data-driven culture is an internal process. But by doing that, you can short-circuit the process. So what do I mean by AI plus SaaS? So SaaS turns out to be something really simple. All it is it just automates workflow. You know, workflow is like email, spreadsheets, copy and paste. You look at Salesforce, you look at Workday, all these things are really technically very simple. It's just automating this sort of basic workflow, and it looks like a form on a database. And the key is to make it scalable and easy to use. But SaaS applications are technically very easy to build. But by doing that, you get a huge amount of data. Because every time someone enters it, uses it, whatever, it's capturing a lot of data. So it solves the data problem, and this is what SaaS is just automating workflow. With this data in cloud, you can then build a typical AI solution with your forecast engine, recommendation, and then change your workflow to include guided recommendations. So by doing this, what you have is you now take your normal just SaaS application, become AI plus SaaS, and this is what I mean by then, you know, you're improving each of your workflows one by one to make data-driven decisions and data-driven action. So I'll give you an example of one of our companies, Blue Shift, that is using AI plus SaaS for marketing. And so what they're doing is they're getting data from all different sources, building a forecast model for each user, for one user at a time, and then deciding based on for what the marketing, who to target, what to recommend, when to engage, and where to deliver. And it picks the right channel. One time it could be SMS, next time it could be Kakao, next time it could be email, or it could be having a call center call you. And then you deliver a one-to-one personalized experience. And so you get all data, have the right model, take the right action automatically, you get a personalized reaction. And so Forrester is saying that as they talk to Blue Shift's customers, like 780% ROI and $128 million revenue lift for one customer by using this AI plus SaaS marketing. And so what that talks about is that it's an evolution of B2C marketing software where first companies were like Constant Contact, which is batch and blast, then database-driven, list-based email companies that were sold for several $billion, and now we're going into AI real time. A better way of looking at this is in the consumer world of cars. When you first wanted to drive a car many years ago, you had to figure out, you would look at the map and drive there. It was a very manual process. That's like manual workflow. Now, in terms of figuring out where to go, all that, you can just use Waze. And Waze will tell you how to get there, what's the best path, looks at traffic, all that, and gives you real-time guidance, but you still have to drive. With a self-driving car, you tell where to go, it just gets there. And so going back to Amazon, this is a quote from Jeff Wilke, who runs their consumer group at Amazon. And he says, in the old days, we used data to help make decisions, but humans made the ultimate decisions. It's like Waze. He says, with machine learning, we take some of the most repetitive intellectual processes and eliminate the requirements for human decision making, so the computer just makes the decision and executes. When he's talking about repetitive, he's talking about like ordering $500 million of parts or goods or things like that. So critical business actions are being done because of this solution. And so, you know, if you're competing against Amazon or Amazon-like companies, you're competing against companies who are moving in this direction. And so to conclude, just want to say that, digital transformation is absolutely critical and is the first step as you want to automate workflow for efficiency. But also keep in mind that, the competition is changing and the competition is trying to use data. Because everyone knows, as the prior speakers have said, it's about data. We're entering a data economy. And so how do you best leverage the data is to become a data company in the new data economy, like the Amazons and the Googles. And so this bridge, AI plus SaaS, is a way that you can quickly transition from the digital transformation to a data company. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me anytime over at LinkedIn. It's the easiest way to reach me. Thank you.